Hey, it's Ellie. Ellie Williams. Been about a month now since I got back to the farm. Seems like forever. But also just yesterday. Every single day, I still look out at that road, just hoping Dina and JJ will walk through the door. But they haven't, and I just couldn't bring myself to go back to Jackson. Not yet. After everything, people would just look at me differently now, you know? I just can't face that. To keep my head from spinning, keep from going somewhere dark, I started writing things down. Just fragments. Stuff Dina and I used to talk about back when things were different. Started with what ifs. And the first one was just for Dina. Imagining, what if the world never went to hell? What if there was no outbreak? How would she have lived? What kind of life would she have had? And the second part, that was about us. What if she and I still met, in a world where none of this ever happened? Where we could just be. I'm not ready to read it myself, but I wanted it out there. So I sent the file to the Perimeter Report. It's this radio show or podcast they do in Jackson. Chloe Chen and Mark Stone run it. They're pretty good, actually. They cover what's happening inside the walls, what patrols are finding out beyond, and sometimes they take requests. They let people share things, stories, whatever, so I figured maybe they could read this. Just a short segment for the show.
Okay, so let's really dive into this. We're exploring a fascinating what if, really. What Dina's life might have been like without, the cordyceps outbreak. What I'm hoping we can sort of get a handle on today, looking at the sources, is her core essence. Who is Dina, really, without that constant fight for survival?
That's exactly the goal here. This deep dive is about seeing Dina's inherent qualities and how they might have flourished differently. The source material gives us this unique, almost reflective way to think about her, beyond just the immediate chaos she lived through.
Yeah, because when I think Dina, I immediately go to fiercely loyal, charismatic. But the sources seem to suggest something deeper about what some might see as maybe self-centeredness, like focusing on the farm with JJ. What's the take there?
Right. And what's fascinating is how the sources reframe that. It wasn't self-centeredness, not really. It was her pragmatism, her very clear-headed need to prioritize well-being, stability, especially for JJ. That's presented as a core drive, something fundamental.
That clarity makes sense. But what about her past? The trauma with her mother? Taking vengeance. In a world with support systems, how does that play out?
That's a really critical point. In a, let's say, pre-outbreak world, that fierce sense of justice, that protective instinct, it wouldn't vanish. It would likely be channeled. Think therapy, a working justice system. These structures could help her turn that drive into something constructive, not just raw survival instinct.
So transforming it rather than just acting on it out of necessity.
Exactly. Which does make you wonder how innate drives interact with supportive environments, doesn't it?
Definitely. And speaking of innate things, her skills. The sources mention her being crafty, right? Making silencers, health kits. That feels like more than just coping.
Oh, absolutely. That resourcefulness, using everything available. The sources hint that's more like an engineer's mind. She wouldn't just be fixing things in a peaceful world. She might be inventing them. Maybe industrial design, engineering, something innovative.
And her explosive positivity, how does that fit in?
Well, it wouldn't just be about getting through the day. It could be a real force for community building. Maybe channeling it into creative outlets too. Arts, music perhaps. Building connections, strengthening bonds.
So we see the core person. How would that translate into a career or a role in society?
Well, connecting those threads. Her nurturing side, the charisma, that sense of justice, it points strongly towards something like community organizing. Or maybe a social worker, really focusing on supporting vulnerable people.
Okay, I can see that.
And her sharp observation skills remember her counting clickers or noticing subtle things in Jackson. Combine that with a drive for truth, maybe forensic science, or investigation. She sees things others miss.
That's quite a spectrum. Forensic science feels structured, though. Would someone so pragmatic, maybe needing some freedom, fit there, or lean more towards the community side?
That's a good question. The sources seem to suggest a balance. She values stability, comfort, community deeply. So maybe a role where she can directly solve problems, see the impact, but within a stable context. Perhaps balancing city life with nature nearby, contributing, building security.
And you mentioned community. The sources also touch on her Jewish heritage. How might that have played a role?
Yes. That could be a really significant anchor for her, that emphasis on community, shared values, continuity. It resonates deeply with her inherent need for connection and stability, doesn't it?
It really does.
You could easily imagine her finding a strong sense of identity, maybe being active in a synagogue or community center. It reinforces that desire to belong and contribute, that explosive positivity finding a real home there.
So putting it all together, thinking about Dina in this other world, it just highlighted how much goodness was already there, right? The outbreak tested her massively, but it didn't create her strength or her kindness. That light was always hers. We're doing something a bit different. A fascinating thought experiment.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting.
We're reimagining the lives of Ellie and Dina, from that world shaped by the outbreak.
Right, taking them out of that context.
Exactly. And our mission isn't just about removing the trauma. It's more about exploring how their core qualities,
His resilience, their loyalty.
yeah, all of that, how it might actually flourish in a peaceful world, one full of opportunity.
It's a great question because what our the character studies we looked at suggest is that they aren't only shaped by the apocalypse. Their fundamental character, it seems to persist, which says something pretty universal, I think.
Definitely. So, okay, let's start with Ellie. In the story we know, she's basically forged in chaos, right?
Totally.
But how would her innate curiosity, how would that look if she grew up with stability?
Well, it wouldn't just be about survival anymore. It would likely become this deep thirst for knowledge, for understanding things.
So like academics.
Yeah, the research suggests she'd probably excel in education. Maybe research, maybe something really intellectual. Imagine her having a safe childhood. That intense focus could go in a totally different direction.
That's a huge shift. What about some of her, let's say, darker traits from the game? How could they manifest positively?
Okay, so take her single-mindedness. Instead of, revenge.
Right.
It becomes this incredible dedication, like almost unparalleled focus. She could probably dive deep into complex problems, scientific or even artistic, in a way most people just can't.
And her trouble letting things go.
That transforms, too. It's not a flaw. It's a deep loyalty, commitment. Makes her an amazing friend, a solid partner.
Okay, I see that.
And that intense passion, the anger, it gets rechanneled. It could become this powerful drive for justice, for equality, fighting for things, not just against them.
Wow. So those early interests, dinosaurs, space, the guitar.
They wouldn't just be hobbies. They could be real paths, right? Nurtured into serious pursuits, astrophysics, maybe.
Wasn't that professional musician even?
Right, could be. And her adaptability, which was about staying alive, now it's about learning fast, picking up new skills, new fields.
And relationships. Probably much healthier.
Absolutely. More stable, more secure. A wider circle of friends she can actually trust without that constant fear of loss hanging over everything.
Okay, now let's pivot to Dina. What do the sources say about her core strengths in this peaceful world scenario?
Dina's foundations are really clear, aren't they? Her charisma, that nurturing side, strong principles, and a real self-assuredness.
The moral compass.
Exactly. That's consistent. And her cultural identity, her Jewish heritage, community involvement, that would likely make her a real pillar in her local community. Family would be huge for her, too, like her relationship with her sister Talia, much more central.
And how does that translate into, her contribution, her career?
Well, with that ethical framework and nurturing instinct, you could easily see her in law, social work, maybe education, or leading community initiatives.
Making a real difference.
For sure. She wouldn't just be doing a job. She'd be inspiring people, guiding change. And her confidence ensures she's always an equal partner, actively shaping things.
So we have these two individuals flourishing in their own ways.
Yeah.
How do they meet in this reality?
Well, their personalities just seem so complementary, don't they? They'd likely be drawn to each other naturally.
How so? What's the scene?
Maybe through music. You could picture Ellie performing somewhere, maybe playing guitar, and Dina's in the audience, just captivated.
Oh, I like that.
Or maybe through community work, shared friends, a cause they both believe in, and given Dina's confidence, she'd probably be the one to make the first move.
Makes sense. And they're dynamic. Ellie's got this vibrant energy, the wit.
Which would definitely intrigue Dina. But Dina offers something crucial back to Ellie.
Stability.
Exactly, that calm, grounded presence. It offers Ellie a kind of emotional safety she might never have known. It's this beautiful balance.
So Dina provides the secure base.
And Ellie brings the spark, the intellectual depth, the art. They'd really help each other grow, facing normal life stuff, careers, families, insecurities, but together, as a team.
And thinking about JJ in the original story, their capacity to be parents seems clear.
Absolutely. You can easily imagine them building a really stable, loving family in this world. And their careers wouldn't just be about survival, but about passion, about contributing something meaningful.
Yeah. This whole deep dive, it really shows that their connection, their ability to love, to grow, it's fundamental. It goes way beyond the setting, doesn't it?
It really does. These are universal themes playing out even without the apocalypse.
It definitely makes you think, though, what parts of us, our own identities are truly core, and how is this just shaped by the world we happen to live in.